Hi, I'm Paige, and I'm going to show you how to make this little gift bag that looks just like a wrapped present. But instead of it getting ripped up and thrown away, you can use it year after year. So these 3 fabrics that you see here were gifted to me by fabric.com, which is my favorite place to buy fabric because they have such a wide variety and selection. You can just browse on there and find exactly what you want. With each of these fabrics, I had 1 yard. And 1 yard of fabric will give you, if you use up the fabric in the best way, you can get 3 bags out of 1 yard. So I was able to make 2 small bags in varying sizes. This one I made a little shorter and this one I made taller, but you can also just get more equally sized bags as well, and then you get 1 large bag. So this is the large, and this would accommodate like a 10 by 10 squared box, or just something big and soft as well. And you can see here I have this super cute evergreen sprig fabric, classic red, of course, and then these happy little Santas. And down in the description box, I'll have a link to my blog where I have all of the sizes, what size fabric you need for each size bag. So everything is listed there, all of the details. Let's get right into the tutorial and I'll show you how the bag comes together, and then I'll tell you more about it at the end. So here is the gift bag in all of its glory. You can see that all of the ribbons are completely seamless, and you just untie your bow, open it up, and you'll pull on each side and you open up to this bag. So here we have 2 pieces. Instead of cutting a rectangle, I cut 2 squares so that the directional fabric faced upward on both sides. So we're going to sew this bottom seam together, just like this, and press that seam flat, and then fold it in half and press a guideline. This guideline is going to be what helps you keep this ribbon centered. So get your ribbon and cut it just a little bit longer than the length of the bag, just like that. And then we're going to pin it into place. So just push that up against your starting edge and just let it overhang slightly, and then follow that fold down the center and pin. Then we're going to stitch down the side right on the very edge of the ribbon on both sides. Once you've done that, it'll look like this. And you can see these stitch lines because I used a red thread, the same color as the ribbon. Then you're going to fold this in half and stitch up both sides, and this is going to create a pouch. Just like this. So to box out the corners, we're going to open up the corners like this, matching the side seam and the bottom seam. And we're just going to fold that out to create a corner. Make sure everything is flat, and then take this over to your iron and press. Then you can use a ruler like this that has a 45-degree guideline, and you're going to measure the length of the side that you want, so in this case 4 inches, and mark that with a fabric pin or chalk. Just like that. This is going to be your stitching line, so stitch right along that line just like this, and do the same thing on the other side. And then you'll have a little boxed out bag. Now we need to add the other length of our ribbon. So this is the trickiest part. You're going to align this with the side seam, and I don't use pins just because I feel like it just makes it a little bit more dangerous. I just take my time and stitch that. So I'll align it at my sewing machine and make sure it's centered, and then I'll begin stitching and back tack, and then we're just gonna work in small sections. So opening up that seam and aligning everything, we're going to work in like 2 to 3 inch stretches. This is a little bit more difficult on a small bag. Bigger bags, you just have more room to work, but it's manageable. This corner, you're going to point downward, and that's going to make it face the middle center of the bottom of the bag. Once you get to the bottom of the bag, stop before you get to the center and tuck in this other little corner flap. That's going to point to the middle of the bottom. And then you'll just keep stitching along until you get to the next side seam and follow that all the way up to the top. Once you've gotten to this side, you can trim off your excess and stitch across the ribbon and then turn your work and go down the other side. This side is much easier, just make sure everything is flat and open all the way. So that's what the bag is going to look like. You're just going to turn it right side and you really see it taking form and you have no seams in your ribbon. It just looks really pretty. Now we need to make the openings for our casing. To do this, I'm going to mark 1.5 inches down on the sides with a little bit of chalk. I found that chalk was a better thing to mark with than the pen for the ribbon. And this spot that you mark is the top of the buttonhole. So you need to keep that 1.5 inch seam allowance free of a buttonhole. With an automatic buttonhole foot, you're just going to set your ribbon width and then make a buttonhole. So you can see this buttonhole is there and our seam allowance is left untouched. And now I'm going to work on the buttonhole and treat the buttonhole. So first, I like to open it. Then when you do this, you have a little bit of stray threads, and I just take a lighter and gently melt those because this is polyester thread, polyester ribbon. And then just to finish things up and secure it, I'll put a little bit of fray check around the buttonhole. And this just makes it fray as little as possible. So now with that 1.5 inch seam allowance, we're going to turn 1/2 inch down. And over on your ironing board, you're just going to press all the way around 1/2 inch. And then once you have that pressed, you fold over the next inch. And this is going to cover the buttonhole. And when it's all pressed, it will look like this. You see the buttonholes at the very top of that casing. It's already opened. And then you're just going to stitch all the way around. Just like that. And you can turn it right side out. And your bag is pretty much ready. All we have to do is put our ribbon in. So we're going to double this up. Make it long enough to go through the bag and then overhang on the sides by 5 inches on both sides. And cut 2 of them. Then to treat your ribbon, you can just gently melt the edge with a flame so then you don't have any fraying on your ribbon. You can do this before or after threading it. And I'm going to use a bodkin, awesome tool for this project, to clamp onto the end of the ribbon. And this, it's like a safety pin, but it doesn't actually poke the fabric, it just grips it. So put it through the casing all the way back through the original buttonhole that you put it in. And then you just pull that out and you have your tie on one side complete. And you'll do the same thing with the other buttonhole and this ribbon. So go in the one with no ribbon sticking out. Push it in all the way around the bag and then back out through that buttonhole. And then just hold the 2 ends and pull to where they get evened out. And now, boom, you can close your bag and tie it up. The great thing about double-faced ribbon is you don't have to worry about which side is shiny and dull. They're both shiny, so it makes tying a bow that much easier. And then just adjust the bow to your liking. I like to pull mine out to where you can see both of them and pull one just a tad longer. And it's done. So there's our little bag. It's so cute, and you can really make this in any size. So here with this large bag, I just wanted to mention a couple ways that you can tweak the sizing. So with this seam, when you pop out that corner to box this out, if you decrease that, then you'll get a rectangle shape instead of a square. And you can just have a really narrow side, big enough to get your ribbon to pass through it, but you'll end up with kind of like a tall and narrow bag instead of square. You really can use any variety of ribbon for this. It can be narrow, it can be really wide, velvet, anything is possible. I even used wired ribbon. I cut the length of the ribbon that I needed, and then I just grabbed the wire and pulled it out so that I actually wasn't sewing a wire. And that worked out really well. So any ribbon will do. I think that keep in mind that when you have something that isn't silky, it might have a hard time with pulling in a nice smooth pull, especially when you get bigger bags where you have to gather a lot of material. So what I did when I used thicker, non-slippery ribbon on the side is I just picked a satin ribbon that complemented it, and that way this one was more decorative with glitter, and this one was just easy to pull through this channel. And you can change the widths. This one is a wider ribbon, but you don't want to be using a lot of ribbon in this casing. So I just got a narrower ribbon to go through the casing that still was the same color. If you sew it in a quilting cotton like this with satin ribbon, you can wash and dry these. What I would recommend is that you wash the fabric beforehand so that it doesn't shrink and then kind of crinkle up the ribbon. So just pre-shrink everything and then sew it, and then you can wash it each year if you need to. Each of these fabrics I'm going to link in the description, and if you have any questions about the tutorial or fabric choices or ribbons, go ahead and just ask in the comments section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I hope that you really liked this tutorial and that it's helpful for you this Christmas season in your gifting and your wrapping. If you like this tutorial, you can let me know by clicking the like button down below, and you can click subscribe and the bell alert next to it to be notified anytime that I post a video. Until next time, go get creative and make a gift bag that you love. Bye!